This was a lady called Margaret. There had been no response to her from her after the stroke. She'd been affected. It looked like she was in a coma. Her eyes didn't open. There was not even any fluttering behind her eyelids. There was nothing. And to some extent, the staff were preparing her husband for the worst. He was absolutely devoted to her, a lovely Irishman. And he told me about all the things that she liked. And he was so thrilled when we arrived to read to her. So he would tell me her favorite poetry. Sometimes the staff would say, well, I'm not sure anything's going to happen. So, perhaps go to another patient. But he was so adamant that we should come. And he had such faith that it was doing some good. And about a month after I'd been reading to her, one day, he told me that she loved James Herriot. So there's a particular story that I today love because of it, because I felt it was like a little miracle. And it was called Piglets, and it was set in the winter of 1947, which was a dreadfully cold winter. And that had been the winter that she'd met a husband. So I didn't know that when I started reading to her. And halfway through the story, her eyes opened and she smiled. And it was the most extraordinary thing. I can't explain it. And they stayed open. And that was the turning point. It had unlocked something in her. She couldn't speak, but she could make eye contact. And her eyes were bright and alive. And he started crying. I managed not to cry, and I managed to continue with the story. And that was the beginning of her rehabilitation.
I was reading Wordsworth's The Daffodils, and the woman who I was reading to hadn't communicated verbally since her stroke. And then as I was reading the poem, she started repeating some of the words along with it. And it was just that connection of the poetry. It obviously was just unlocking something that was there, that she'd memorized it at school or something, and she just said some of the words, and it wasn't all of it, it was just little snippets, and that was a really sort of massive moment, I think, for me, and the power of what we do.